Hi everyone, I wanted to walk you through some of my thoughts in your first case discussion of Jane Rodgers. And specifically, you were to focus on who she could sue. And the first one is Dr. James, the first person that we'll consider, and that was the family physician that recommended that the family get physicals. Now that's interesting. The question that came to my mind was, why didn't he conduct the physicals himself? Is he the one who recommended that Jane go to the university clinic? And if so, how good a recommendation was that, given that the university setting probably would not have a specialist that could make a melanoma finding? However, the fact of the matter is, there was no doctor-patient relationship here. He did not examine Jane like Dr. Gillespie, who we will get to in a few minutes. So she would have a hard time prevailing in a malpractice suit against Dr. James. What's interesting is there was an article that came out in the New York Times, back in 2008, of a physician who was at a book club and she noticed a mole on one of the other book club readers' shin, and she recommended that she get it checked out. The woman said that her doctor had already seen it and decided that it was not a problem. The doctor said, I was probably wrong, but it was too risky not to recommend that she get it checked out. So, in this case, Dr. James correctly made the recommendation that she have a physical. However, perhaps the warning could have been more strongly worded, and he could have recommended that she see a specialist who would be skilled in detecting melanoma. Again, similar to the Esquivel case, while this is an ethical should, legally, he did not violate or breach any duty that he had in terms of malpractice. Now, the next person that we're going to deal with is Dr. Gillespie. And in this case, he straight up missed the diagnosis of melanoma. And presumably, early treatment of the melanoma would have given Jane a chance for survival. So in this case, there's a lost cost or a lost chance that she had for a healthy life that, due to her reliance on Dr. Gillespie's clean bill of health, she did not exercise. Now, what's interesting is the conversation at this point generally shifts to what responsibility Jane may have had, knowing that she was fair-skinned, knowing that her sister had died of melanoma. She continued to work as a lifeguard. The question is, does she have some type of responsibility for choosing a high-risk occupation given her skin coloring in this case? This case would require jury instructions to really walk through, was the diagnosis improper? Did he have, at minimum, even missing the diagnosis, a duty to inform her that she was a high candidate for melanoma? But in terms of a specific duty, breach of duty, causation, and damages, which we've been dealing with in this chapter, he clearly had a duty for a proper diagnosis. He failed in that duty because he missed the melanoma. As a result of his inaccurate diagnosis, Miss Rodgers continued her occupation as a lifeguard and eventually died. And again, early diagnosis and avoidance of the sun by changing her job very well could have gone a long way in preserving her life. Now, in terms of the physician that she meets at a party, there is clearly no doctor-patient relationship. There is no duty on his part. He, again, was acting more as the Good Samaritan. Sorry about that. Uh, Acting more as the Good Samaritan when he recommended that she go and get it checked out. Her missed appointments again points the lens at, especially under contributory negligence, to what extent did Jane's behavior contribute to her own death. But in terms of who she could have an actionable case against, I think clearly Dr. Gillespie for the misdiagnosis. And I think that it's a much weaker case in that I don't think that she would prevail in suing either the resident that she met at the party or Dr. James. I hope that helps. So these are some of the points that I was looking at, and I will give more specific feedback for each of the teams in the individual graded rubric that I will be uploading this week.